Konnichiwa, Dwarven Tavern へようこそ。私たちはリリックと
Josh.
です。今日は他のレビューをします。Today we are doing the review of Iki, which is why I was speaking Japanese to begin with. Iki is the game of Edo Artisans. This game is all about being in the marketplace of the time of Edo, Japan, which for those who don't know, Edo is Tokyo in the feudal era. So,
Kind of think of it as a Japanese Monopoly that with more rules.
way more rules. And I feel like there's more pieces to this as well. There's certainly no like top hat or vehicle
Or battleship.
battleship or anything like that. But they have all these little intricate little parts. I would not recommend this for young children. So we're not going to get too into gameplay because it is a very complicated game.
But it's a long game too.
Yeah, we will.
I mean, the minimum time is 60 to 90 minutes. That's a long game.
But we will briefly just dab into it. That's
Don't
the first
do that ever again.
That's the first and last time I will ever dab. I had to do it for the pun.
I gotta get my fidget spinners and just want to get fidget spinners and.
So we will briefly get
Axes
into gameplay, and we will then talk about like why we're not going to get too much into it because it's a very complicated game. So let's start off with the instructions. There is a lot of them, and from the consensus of the internet, it feels like a lot of people agree with us in that they seem very convoluted.
Now there's also English instructions, Japanese, and just German or
It's
Dutch?
German.
It's German. So
And German.
I'd be curious how the translation
is for the German.
Yeah.
That would be a nice thing to say. If you're German and you've played this game, please let us know about your experience because for an English speaker, this game was translated from Japanese to English by a non-native speaker. So a lot of the instructions are actually kind of not mistranslated, but a lot of it is lost in translation.
Yeah.
It's very easy to get confused in these rules, and that causes a lot of conflict in this game, which is another reason why we're not going to get too into the gameplay. So, just going off of the instructions, the first part is the background and overview of Iki and the time period of which this is placed.
Which is what, like 1600?
Yeah, it is exactly that. The 1603 to 1868 is the exact years. So the purpose of the game is to gain Iki, or prestige. You want to be the most prestige of everyone else in the game. You want to have the most Iki.
So each player plays a businessman or businesswoman, and their job is to set up shops, set up different shops, different that sells different things like
eggs,
shoemakers,
eyeglasses,
yeah, painters,
rice.
stuff like that. And the players, essentially, as they buy from each of these members, is you have to buy to get the requirements to build other buildings that don't go on here. Your buildings are kept off the board.
Which is okay. There's a lot going on with this board to begin with.
Yeah,
We're not going to show you.
going on.
We're not going to show you the actual board because that would be very complicated to hold up. So luckily, in the instructions, they give you this nice little graphic that you can go off of. So to just skim through gameplay, all players start here. This is the timeline of which you will play. This is the game session.
So this is months.
Yes. There's spring, summer, autumn, winter, and the new year. So you have 13 rounds, basically. Then you have, this is the, what is that called? The way of life track, meaning this is how many spaces you move in-game. And then this...
And you choose that. You don't have to roll the dice or anything like that. You just choose if you want to go one space, and then if you're playing with other people, they can't choose that space.
Right.
So they have to choose somewhere over between 1 and 4.
Then you have the fire track, which there are fires that happen in-game, and the more points you have on that, the more you're likely to stop those fires.
And the fires will lose you, Iki points and building stuff like that.
Right. And then lastly, just to go over it, this is around the board, the Iki track. This is how many points you earn by the end of the game.
So this is basically kind of the who's in the lead, so to speak. Now, you'll get different, you'll advance these points depending on the people you have shop-wise, maybe. But most of your points are going to come from your buildings.
Right.
So these are going to be like, some buildings will move you, 25 spaces.
Yes.
So,
So people start here at the starting point. They don't start on the board. And then they go around the track in a counterclockwise position. There are 8 spots for 16 stores, and each one spot counts for both stores it's in front of. And so your character goes around to each of these stores and tries to get stuff from the merchants. You earn money, you earn building materials, you can select people that you want to hire. Again, we're not going to go too much into it and tell you how to do all these individual parts. It's just showing you that you can go to each of these individual people, for example, the eyeglass peddler, and get monies from him. And you can own these people, which is what these little guys are for. They're called kobun, and they represent what level your artisan is at.
kind of think about them as hotels in Monopoly.
Yeah, exactly. So throughout the game, you can gather individual pieces. Like, can you grab the piece boards, please? You can grab individual pieces like fish and sandals and monies. The money in this system is done in 4s. So the gold are 4 and the silver are 1. And you start out with 8. 1 of the gold and 4 of the silver. Mm-hmm. Then you have fish and sandals, and not on this one is the pipes. And then you have kolban, which are the gold things. Those are building materials, pipes, pouches, and so on and so forth.
And all that is made for trading with ticket supplies or with the other shop owner.
Right. So that is pretty much the game in it and
very
of itself.
Simplified.
Very simplified version. There is stuff that we may not have covered, and that's because there's so much of it that must be covered.
Now, this took
Months.
2 tries, 2 or 3 times for us to actually sit down and play the game and just do it and try to get through the translation of the instructions. And I got very frustrated with it. We both got frustrated with it.
In the beginning, I got very frustrated with it.
And then once you kind of get a hold of it, it goes a lot smoother. But like I said, there's like such a gap of information. It feels like that's lost in translation, where it feels like you're getting, every other rule, and you're not getting all the other stuff in it.
Yeah, it definitely feels like there may be something missing, and that is what the lost in translation bit is that there feels like there's so much going on, and yet the rules are so unclear that it feels like it could have been consolidated a lot easier too. They
explained a lot easier too.
Yeah, they were very thorough in explaining each of the points, but the rules of the gameplay was just all over the place. However, there were good points to the game too. It wasn't all convoluted. The payment system that we experienced was awesome. At the end of each season, your characters on the board, the people that you own, the hotels of the Monopoly, they give you money and you earn stuff as you play the game.
And really, everything you get in the game is used for something. So if you get sandals or fish or tobacco pipes or whatever, it's all used as trading materials to get other stuff. So there's no just random stuff you have just for points.
Right.
You use it all.
There's everything is worth some level of Iki in the game. You don't win the game by how much money you have. You win the game by how prestigious your character is. And by character, who I keep referring to is the person that you are playing. So for the Kickstarter set, which we got, they have 2 characters, which I can't find the other one. So we have the 2 of the extra guys, or actually no, it's just this one, the geisha. So you have the big one, which is your character, and then you can have this one if you got the Kickstarter set, which we were lucky enough to get. Another problem that we had was that it was kind of hard to keep track of all of the different tracks in the game, the fire and the way of life and the iki and the seasons, all 4 of those on top of going around the board.
At the end of every round, your pool of builders changes. Every round they get cheaper by 1 money to buy, and then after 2 rounds they get shuffled back into a discard pile.
Right.
If you actually remember to do that, because there's so much other stuff to keep up with.
Right. So I feel like this game, it's big and might be too big. There's a lot of components to this game that get washed away with the translation that is missing. And it's a lot to keep track of when you're playing this, especially with just 2 people. This game is 2 to 4, I believe.
Yes.
So it might be easier with more players, but with the limited Dwarven Tavern staff that we have here, I feel like this game, it may not actually be for 2 players. Like, 2 players can play it, but it might be best for 3 and up. Just because of the complexity of the game. This is definitely a game that you have to have taught to you. This is not something that you can learn on your own. So all in all, every part of the system, every individual part of the system seemed to be fine. The money, the hiring system, the fire system, all of those seemed to be fine. But putting them all together made the game feel cramped and rushed, and I think cramped is the best way to explain it.
There's a lot going on, and it's still a big board, but it feels small when you put all this stuff on it.
Right.
It feels like a good game. It feels like there's a good game in here, and what we did play, we really enjoyed it. It's maybe a little bit intimidating to somebody that doesn't know Japanese like me or isn't fluent with it. Most of the pieces, the card pieces are in Japanese, so there is English on there for the equivalent, but a lot of the boards in Japanese, and that's probably just, I don't think it's important information on the board. It's just there for artistic
value
and reason. But I don't know, it's intimidating, possibly. I don't know. Like I said, it feels like a good game, but with what's lost in translation, in my opinion, I have to grade it on what I have, not on what it could be. So
I speak Japanese, for those of you who don't know. I can also agree that it's intimidating even for us who do know the foreign language. And I would say this is not just for this game, but if you're translating any game from your native tongue into a language that you don't understand, definitely get a person who understands that language to help you out. Otherwise, there's going to be a lot that's lost. There's going to be mistranslations. There's going to be points that could have been simplified, or phrases that you may not have known.
Maybe, I don't know what it would be called, beta test a translation.
Right.
And then maybe they did that. I don't know. I don't want to say that they didn't do everything they could, but maybe they didn't. I'm
just saying that if you feel like this game may be misunderstood, then definitely have someone else help you out. That being said, I agree with him. This feels like it's a great game. It has a lot of potential. Maybe it would be a better game if we had other players, or players who have experience with the game. Yeah. But from the 2 of us, it feels like there could have been more, or rather less, complications.
So based on that, I'm kind of conflicted about what I really want to give it. I think that there's a lot there, but like I said, I gotta review it on what I have, and I think it's easily a four and a half acts game if it, was translated better, if it was, a little bit more clear. I think I have to give it like a 2.5 because as much frustration as it was to get through it and just start it. Once we got in it, it was fine, but it took a long time for us anyway.
So I'm along the same lines. I feel like this game has so much to it. There's so much that it could be, but there's so much that it isn't currently. So you know how I like my high scores. Because of the potential that it holds, I'm going to give it a higher score than what I originally wanted. However, the loss in translation is kind of the biggest point to a game. If you lose how to understand it, then you can't play it. So I'm going to give it a 3. And that leaves us with a 2.75. Axes. We don't like to round here at the tavern. And if you guys want to check this game out for yourself, this is the company of Utsuroi. You can find them at, I guess I will link the website below because I don't see it on their board. It was made in Germany. That's probably why
it's a Japanese game made in Germany, translated in English.
That might be why all the translations all messed up.
We met the people that made this game, and they were very nice, but yeah, they were Japanese.
They were definitely Japanese. So check them out. Check out their website. Check out the game. If we are wrong, if you think that we've graded this too harshly or not harsh enough, please comment below. We would love to hear from you guys and your experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, you have to look up the instructions elsewhere. The instructions that they provide may help you out with the pieces, but how to play you could probably find online or on YouTube, which is kind of what we did.
So we had to pull from different people, different sources, to kind of piece together how to play the game ourselves.
Right. We will definitely link below anything that we can do to help you guys play this. Also, this is Imagine Games in Dami. They have those. It was really cool. They put the names of their companies in the front of their cover. I thought that was cool. Like, the design of this game is phenomenal, and that's another big point of why I'm giving it a good score. So, that's that. Please comment below if you have anything to agree or disagree. And with that note, I am Lyric.
And I'm Josh.
And we wish for you tomorrow for nothing but adventure, and at first I feared it, then I charged. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next time.
Let the games begin. Let the dragon